neutron. On this side, they emit, they capture electron, actually they not capture, but they emit the electron out when they disintegrate. So that is what is happening. Also, you can see that these are the this looks like labels. See, the labels. So it looks like the neutrons are arranged like labels. You see. So now, my model emerges, and in that one we look at that. We actually look at the two shells we are looking at. One is a proton-neutron shell. The proton and neutrons, they will make partnership and form a proton shell. If you do the mathematical study of you can put the equation together, then you will see that to balance out the Coulomb forces, you actually need 2 times the weight of proton. And the way the nucleus does is it takes the another neutron with it, proton. So proton-neutron forms a pair, and the gravitational forces and the Coulombian forces for the initial getting together balances at that point, and that balance gives the rise. So we have a shell which is made up of these balanced neutron-proton pairs. Now let's go to that picture. There you go. So this shell has the balanced neutrons and protons. And this is an inside shell which is made up of only neutrons. So when it is made up of only neutrons, we see that there is one little green dot here. I put that dot there because there was empty space, and that space can only be taken up by another neutron. So very first excess neutron will always go there, and then this will be the regular shell, KLM and SPDF, that will be this. So in case, and this is an NP shell. When we look at the, now using this model, I have, this is the isotope of barium, Be, which has 4 protons, which are red, okay, and it has 5 neutrons. So when you look at it like this, you see that this is what they have formed a pair, and the 1 neutron is in the center. As the becomes bigger and bigger, you can see more and more. You can put together the similar things, and here you can go. So now we will do the thought process, then how this extends. So if you look at the 39, the gold, okay, we are going to, this is the table which is with the odd number of stable nuclei, and you can look at, you can see that the number of stable isotopes as we go down. For boron, there are 2. Lithium, there are 2. But after that, the nitrogen has 2. But as you go down, see one, majority of them are 1, 23 Na. So the stability, like when you plot this and do the thought process, or do the picture yourself, you'll see that the stability for the odd isotopes or odd isotopes or odd elements, that is coming from the neutron shell, because that becomes more stable and very stable. And when you look at the NP cell for the odd, it always have one extra floating around because it's not evened out, So NP shell is not giving it stability. Just the internal shell is giving the stability. So, and for the even ones, you can see that the outer shell, NP cell, will be perfectly balanced, and the neutron shell will not be balanced because the remaining neutrons go in there. We can, for example, let's look at this 31P. So these are I came up with these neutron energy levels. So whenever you look at the excess neutrons, you can see here that the first excess one will go in this F, which is I am calling it a fundamental. So that will always have one neutron, and then the remaining will go here. So if the excess count is even, this is not balanced. If it is odd, it is balanced. Okay. So in case of odd number of, say in case of this is bromine. Okay. It has 11 bromine, right there. So it has 11 and 9 excess neutrons. So and this is the one element which is such that it has these particular isotopes 51%, and this one is a 49%. You can look at the AS, which has 9, and it is 100%. So when you look at 9 and you look at the previous one, you can see that with this one 9 neutrons. This one went into the F shell, the F, which is fundamental, which is center. You can envision the neutron shell just like our solar system. That's what it is. But it is a child. Instead of one Earth, we have two Earths in the same orbit like that. So you can go look at all these different. So with 9, this is a 2 in K2, and then. A 2 means 2 maximum number of neutrons, and you come to 2 here, and in L we have 6. So you can see that this is a complete, and as a result, bromines, that isotope is very stable with 100% abundance. That was I think AS. Yeah. So. So you can analyze like that. The stability in case of even isotopes, it comes from the NP shell. Now there's a lot of mathematics behind all these things, but we don't have that much time. But I gave you the introduction. Now the things that makes it unstable is also coming from this. You can look at it that as soon as an element which is supposed to have 9, instead of it has 8, okay, then this shell becomes unsatisfied with parity. Okay. As a result, it makes it unstable. Now, just to visualize, something what the neutrons do, think about helium atom. Helium atom and the abundance. Helium with 1 neutron, okay, is very minute quantity in nature, and helium with 2 neutron is abundant. So you can imagine, something like a dumbbell, you see, which is balanced. You see, with 1 neutron and 1 proton, and 1 neutron and 1 proton balanced. You see, so it can rotate like that. But if you have just the 1 neutron, this one will pair up proton, so it is heavier. And here it's just 1 proton standing there. So the probability is less, and it will have the center of gravity displaced, and now it is doing all sorts of things. You see, it's not doing regular circular thing. So that's what I wanted to say about this. And now let's see how this thing can be applied to the other. Now we know that because of the inner shell of neutron, which becomes heavier and heavier as the time goes by, and these are the protons. You see, think about the sun getting 200 times heavier. What will happen to Earth? It will be sucked in just by being heavier, because the velocity will remain the same, and the radius will go smaller. You see, 10 times smaller. So you can apply the same thing with the heavy elements. That as the elements become heavier and heavier, the excess neutrons, which are actually the lifeblood of all this element making, becomes heavier and heavier. When it is 50 times or 100 times heavy, the center, the radiuses are going to be small, and it will start interacting with the lower NP cell. Okay, let me see where I put it. So that now this brings out another thing that we say, how does the element behave in solid? Because we know that element will disintegrate, but it doesn't disintegrate everything immediately. It has a specific pattern. You see, those specific pattern. It has a half-life. Everything doesn't, half-life means, if you have 1 kilogram, and if it has a half-life of 1 year, after 1 year, it will be half a kilogram. You see, after 2 years, it will be 1/4. Not everything would have disintegrated. So what makes it this? What it looks like to me, and I haven't put together all the equations, but it might be behaving in the solid. These neutrons might be behaving as a neutron cloud. in a localized way. So this has a very big impact, this new model that I proposed has in nanotechnology, where you are looking the characteristics of the nanoparticles. Because nanoparticles are made out of 5 or 6 atoms, or sometimes more. So how does this behave? The other issue is the fusion of hydrogen. Like many metal, you can fuse the hydrogen in it, or you can just throw in it goes in. What is hydrogen? Hydrogen, once the electron is stripped off, it's a proton. So it behaves like a free proton. So movement of free proton in solid, that is also an interesting part, because like in solids, once you are in solid, valence electrons lose their characteristics. You cannot tag that this electron belongs to that particular atom or nucleus. You cannot do that. It's all cloud, moving from. So once the hydrogen fuses inside, you have a free proton, because that valence electron of hydrogen is a part of the cloud. You see? So you have a free proton inside. And you can always have a free neutrons inside, because you can always bombard it with it. And they will stay as neutrons inside. They are not going to change anything. So now you have a movement of free protons and free neutrons. And also, these are loosely bound. Even though nucleus is very strong, these neutrons are very loosely bound. So maybe in solid they are behaving differently. As a result, we have a half-life. So if we, you are the scientist, new scientist. Some of you, if you decide to do that kind of investigation and put together some equations or theoretical foundation and see what is causing the half-life, because right now all the theories out there does not tell you what will be the half-life of an element, the one that you make, or why is that. They